I'd like to call this regular meeting of the Board of Finance to order. First item on our agenda, as always, is public comment. I see we have a bunch of people in the audience, many of which are likely here to speak. Is there anyone that would like to make a public comment? Okay. So moving on, Jen, did we get any emails of public comment? No. Okay. So, tonight is a little bit more of a formal type meeting, which is the day prescribed in our overall town charter by which the Board of Selectmen and the Board of Education both present to us their respective approved board budgets. I know we've all been watching these sort of develop by the superintendent and by the town administrator, starting back in early January and so forth, and we've listened to a lot of the deliberations, but I guess it's now our time to sort of further review these, and I'm sure we'll have some questions and so forth, but our responsibility now is to review these two budgets, put them together, and sort of try to generate the overall mill rate and funding sources, if you will, to fund next year's budget. So at this point, I would invite Ms. McNally to come up if she'd like to present the Board of Selectmen budget. Duke, the smaller budget goes first, so.
Hey, Jim. Could I just speak a couple of comments on Great Island, or is that all right?
Yep, absolutely.
Okay. All right. Can I give you the long version? Okay, thank you. So I do have some prepared comments. I was hoping to give them last night at our Board of Selectmen meeting, but we didn't have the deal done. So we got the deal done at literally midnight. So Great Island the process started about a year ago when I had a visit with Ned Steinkraus, whose family owns Great Island, and we are very grateful for the Steinkraus family for giving us the opportunity to bid on the property. Late last night, we agreed on an approach to address the due diligence that had delayed the completion of the agreement. I want to sincerely thank the Board of Selectmen. I want to thank everybody in town, all of the town departments that worked on this. I want to give a major shout out to everyone in town hall, and also to Wayne Fox, who is our town council on this, and a really big thank you to your chair, Jim Palin, who was very integral in this whole effort from start to finish. So to summarize, we're purchasing 60 plus acres on Great Island on Ziegler's Cove for a revised purchase price of $85 million. Board of Finance, I'm sure you know it started at 103. The closing will be May 5th, 59 days from now. The revised purchase price does take into consideration the estimated cleanup costs of certain environmental issues, increased interest costs resulting from the delay in closing, and the estimated costs to address access issues. We are confident that the savings from the reduced purchase price will be sufficient to resolve these issues. I think Great Island is a great investment. The vast majority of the speakers at last year's public hearings supported the purchase. The RTM voted to support it, and I think everybody that has had the opportunity to take a tour has found it to be really a crown jewel for Darien. Our first order of business will be to complete the purchase in May. As I said, May 5th is our closing date. And after that, we will look to do some physical work on the island. And that could be widening roads, creating some parking spots, addressing some safety, accessibility issues, and environmental issues. And I will be meeting with staff before then to discuss projects to take a look at, regardless of the final vision for the island. So last year we offered some preliminary ideas of utilization of the various spaces, including education, recreation, and community events. So none of this is etched in stone. Our planning will remain flexible, and until we gain some experience interacting with the island, and until we gather community input for the best ways to move forward for people to enjoy and conserve this space. Several towns have similar spaces, such as Waveney Park in New Canaan, and Todd's Point in Greenwich, and they have organized groups of residents to help manage their properties, and we may adopt a similar approach. There will be transparency, whatever the process that for management that's implemented. So Great Island will be a lot of work. It's a super exciting project, and it won't happen overnight. It's going to take a little bit of time, but really excited for the town. I can't even tell you. I'm really excited. So, okay, you ready, Kate?
Yep.
Okay. So, good evening. On behalf of the Board of Selectmen, I'm here to present the Board of Selectmen 23-24 budget, proposed budget, which addresses the changing needs of our community as we embrace the unprecedented growth in Darien. I'd like to thank my fellow selectmen for their many hours that they put into analyzing this budget. They considered every facet and worked together to form a consensus. I appreciate the input provided by other elected and appointed officials, as well as all of the hard work of our department heads during the process. And I want to thank Kate and Jen and the rest of my administration for the many months of work to create what I'm presenting tonight. So, priorities. The priorities this year were similar to those in recent years. To maintain or modestly improve services to our residents while mitigating the increase in the tax rate, responding to the growth in town, and managing the increase in demand for services overall. Growth. We are seeing the impact of the redevelopments on the grand list, an increase of $134 million. We are also seeing the increasing demands on various town departments. With the third redevelopment project, the Heights, located on the Palmer's project property about to get underway, we will continue to see both the positive impacts of the growth and the increased needs for services. Okay, so this chart reflects some of the changes that I've been referring to. It's a little bit hard to see, but town operations budget increased 4.32%, or $1,405,883. This also reflects the town's annual contribution to the Darien Public Library to support operating expenditures. The library board submitted an annual funding request increase of 4.87% to the town, and the Board of Selectmen has proposed fully funding this request. Other items to note, an increase due to medical premium increases. The premium renewal shown in this proposed budget is 19%. And that's a result of medical inflation and actual claims experience. The town's consultant marketed the medical coverage as a result of this large increase, and we're expecting that during the Board of Finance budget review, we will be able to reduce that number after an evaluation of the proposals is complete. Funds are set aside in the budget for the settlement of union contracts. The budget also assumes interest payments for bonds that will be issued to finance the purchase of Great Island and the Hindley Homes and Royal renovation projects. And those numbers for Great Island are on the initial 103 price. Last, we are seeing more programs returning to pre-pandemic levels, which is reflected in the cost of those programs, such as summer camp. Also shown on this chart is an increase in non-tax revenues. Some of this growth is from raised fees, and there are still additional building permit fees to come in from the redevelopments. We also experienced a major upturn in our investment income due to rising interest rates. So this budget shows an increase in full-time employees, primarily in the area of public safety, to respond to the increased demands. So in this budget, we have one new police officer, one new emergency services director, one deputy fire marshal, increased from a part-time to a full-time, one registered sanitarian, which was increased from a part-time to a full-time, and 0.5 FTE clerk in the finance department. The increase of the 3.5 full-time employees has a total cost of $273,980. The three large redevelopment projects in town have begun to add to the grand list on the revenue side, but they've also generated costs. The increase in the full-time employees that I've noted is to respond to the volume of required inspections conducted by the Fire Marshal's Office and the Health Department. And I was looking, we just did that emergency services study, so I was looking just for myself at some numbers, and I noticed just for the fire marshal that from last year to this year, we had almost a 40% increase in fire inspections in 2022 over 2021. So the data is there that supports the need for these additions. Significant budget changes. A major change proposed this year is in the funding of the reserve for capital and non-recurring fund. And in the past years, all of the property tax was deposited into the general fund. And then we then transferred a portion of that into the reserve fund to fund capital projects. This budget proposal proposes that we levy taxes directly for the reserve fund. So the proposed change would make no difference for our taxpayers and the overall amount of taxes that are needed. It would simply eliminate one step. This change means that the year-over-year comparisons of expenditures in the general fund would no longer be susceptible to the swings in expenses and other funding sources that impact the taxes to support the capital plan. Capital highlights. Vehicle replacement. So the total capital fund budget for the town projects is $3.7 million. We have fund replacements for vehicles for all fire, the fire marshal, the police, building, emergency medical, and public works. We have funds included in capital for the annual paving program. We have funds for a new computer-aided dispatch for the police department. We have funds for various pieces of firefighting equipment and for repairs and improvements at town buildings and town parks. Revenue highlights, always my favorite page, except for that little
jumbling.
little blob. Okay, well, we'll work around that. So I referred previously to the revenue side of the budget. This next graph is the source of revenues for town. The fiscal year 2024 proposed budget non-tax revenues increased by $1.7 million or 19.9%, almost 20%. The most significant increase in this is investment income, which was up over $1.4 million. Intergovernmental aid is up $300,000, and that's reflecting a move from one grant from the capital fund to the general fund. And general services is up about 9%. Other highlights. The sewer operations fund is supported by sewer service charges that are set annually, and it funds a contribution to the sewer capital fund. The largest expense of the sewer fund continues to be fees paid to Stanford for treatment of our sewage. The sewer capital fund includes replacements of pumps and collection system rehabilitation. Revenues to the parking fund are anticipated to increase in fiscal '24, reflecting an increase in permit and daily parking. You've probably all seen that. The parking operations budget includes restoration of a parking ranger position to aid in parking lot management, and the parking capital fund includes paving and drainage projects for the commuter lots. So, in conclusion, we have, we'll just put up the year-over-year budget change, and I'll take any questions if you have them. Thank you. I forgot. Thank you.
Any questions?
I don't have any at this moment.
Okay.
I don't think there are any questions tonight, but you appreciate, okay, maybe if you could pass along this presentation when you get done. We will, but I'm sure over the next 4 weeks, we'll be working with our counterparts at the RTN to discuss all of our various budget assignments, and I'm sure we'll have questions for you and for staff as we kind of refine our analysis and so forth. But I appreciate this.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Rich. Monica, congratulations. Well done to all those people that helped. I think it's an incredible move forward for the town, and I know it's very exciting, but a thank you to you as the first selectman. And Jim, I know you were on it from a Board of Finance perspective, but I know all the selectmen and other town agencies and all the hard work that was done here at Town Hall. I think it's an incredible addition to this town as we grow. I think open space is just key to continuing to maintain the character of this town and the way people want to live. So thank you. Thank you. So thank you all this evening for having us here. Duke Deneen from the Board of Finance, no? Board of Education. So first, a thank you to the administration and to all the folks in the buildings throughout our school district. This budget is really built from the bottom up in terms of the principals and assistant principals and even the staff at those schools building this budget each year to invest in our students' education. Thank you to the Board of Ed, who works incredibly hard during this period to look at the budget, works very hard with the Board of Finance, with RTM Education, RTM F&B, and then the RTM. So a lot of partnerships working together, I think, to come to the right conclusion of continuing to invest in the education for our students. In my almost 8.5 years on the board, we've continued to do that. We've continued to invest in the education of our students. And over the last couple of years, as we have all experienced and can all see, we are heavily investing in the infrastructure of our schools. We're rounding the corner to the completion of Ox Ridge. It's very exciting to see the structure up there that will house the gymnasium, the cafeteria, and the music rooms. Jill McCammon, our vice chair, and Chris Price are working on what we refer to as HHR, which will bring the other 3 elementary schools up to an incredible place. And the portables in town will finally be removed. And we will end the discussion on portables and probably have a parade, Monica, to remove the portables from town. So that's an exciting part. We look forward to continuing to work with you and answer questions. We appreciate everyone that's participated in all the meetings that we've had over the last couple of months. Overall, a safe and healthy learning community is our goal. Some of the points that you'll see as we go through this deck are aligning to our strategic plan, which we continue to work on, and we continue to build on what's in the strategic plan. What we've done also over the last year is kind of talked about going back to the basics, all right? We've invested a lot in our education, but we also have to make sure all that we've invested in, whether it's people, whether it's curriculum, whether it's technology, that we continue to execute flawlessly, and that we look at everything that we do and how it's going to impact the students and what we're delivering to our students. So we'll continue to look at that. And as you'll see, and if you've paid attention to the meetings over the last couple of months, we've also focused, and the administration has done an outstanding job in working with the board and looking for efficiencies. As our budget continues to grow, we cannot keep pace with what's going on in the economy and growing our budget without constantly looking at efficiencies. Efficiencies that will continue to deliver the best education to our students, but that will enable us to work more efficient from a technology standpoint and from a people standpoint. As we invest in people, we've always got to look at and make sure how do those people we're investing in touch our students and deliver that education every day. So that will be a continued recurring theme, and that will be important. Always safety and security for our students, safety and security for our administration and overall for our town. So we've invested in SSOs and a director of security over the last year. We had a lot of tough conversations, a lot of tough questions. I have to thank Chief Anderson for his participation and help in being a true partner. We are turning out to be a leader in this area. It's unfortunate when you turn on the news or open a paper, there seems to be a shooting at a school or a campus on a regular basis. It's an area where I think we all decided we have to lead and not follow, and now several other districts are following us in terms of the model that we're delivering to continue to provide safety and security to our students and our staff. Mental health resources, you know the challenges we went through over the last couple of years, so the focus has to be always on the well-being of our students and their mental health. We have to figure out how to reduce stress, reduce anxiety, enable them to continue to learn, flourish, participate in the arts and music and theater and sports, but kind of take the pressure down a little bit. So an investment in a director of mental health, in continuing to expand the wellness center, and in looking look at programs that we can bring in that will continue to help our students and our staff deal with social media and the stresses that just come with day-to-day life nowadays. Addressing substitute shortage. There was an article this week. It will continue to be an incredibly challenging year to find teachers. It is just an occupation that people are not going into, more are retiring or more are leaving for other occupations. So we feel we worked through our new contract and really worked with the administration, but it will continue to be a challenge in terms of finding teachers and also finding coverage. But we'll continue to work hard to do that on a daily basis. We'll also continue to support the special education needs of our students. Special education continues to grow. We're still working through remediation as we come out of COVID. It will be incredible focus for us on a daily basis to continue to deliver what our students need in terms of support and services. If you look at a high level in terms of budgets that have come out, kind of the average superintendent's budget that was delivered about 478. Board of Ed approved budgets have come in about 397. Our original budget was 494, and then working with the administration and the board, the budget we present to you is at 3.56. If you look at enrollment, we did our demography this past year, which I think was a good thing. We'll continue to look at that on a more regular basis. Within our enrollment projections, we do have the developments that are going on, the Palmer's development, the federal development, and also Corbin Drive are built into our overall enrollment statistics. There are some other sites, parklands, and there's potential development with the Nielsen properties. We'll continue to look at that closely. Rich and the team look at and work very closely with Town Hall on folks that are moving in and folks that are registering children in town. So we'll continue to monitor that closely. But overall, you'll see next year's enrollment increase projected by a 47 student increase, and then over the next 5 years, a little over 100%, a little over 100 students coming into the district. One of the goals and one of the draws to the town is the education system, and I think it's also the size of the classes, and it's the feel of our community elementary schools. It's the great feel of our middle school, and it's the incredible campus and delivery of high school education that we do up at the high school. So our goal will always be to maintain class sizes that we feel are optimal, with a lot of feedback from the administration and parents, but we continue to look at that on a regular basis, and we'll continue to maintain those average class sizes. If you look at the budget highlights, as I mentioned, enhancing teaching and learning. A goal there was to address the teacher substitute shortage, which we did in working with the budget and the administration. That will continue to be a challenge. We'll continue to look at special instructional programs that are needed. We always look at new clubs and offerings. As several people have said, we have probably more courses and electives and club offerings than small colleges and universities. So we'll continue to look at that. I think it's important that students have a choice. We're even looking at potential electives at the middle school, which I think would be exciting. But we have to constantly look at what our students are looking to do, what our needs are, and balance that. As I said, we'll continue to support class size and enrollment, and just good stories. And we had an update on our Fitch program. We'll actually tour our Fitch program during our facilities tour in a couple of weeks. But we're, thanks to Jerry Nielsen and his generosity, we're expanding the space there, and the program continues to deliver incredible results. As I said, we're going to support the mental health programming with a hire of director of mental health. We're going to expand the wellness center and have a coordinator in there too. The new key teacher contract, Mr. Palin was part of that negotiation, and a thank you for his time and energy. We took a different approach this year of working very closely with the DEA. We had a good 4 negotiation sessions. We went to mediation, but through mediation we worked together. Sometimes you stand in 2 different rooms and the attorneys walk back and forth. We decided to bring ourselves together a couple of times, and I think through long hours we came to the right conclusion to the benefit of both sides in terms of some stuff that the teachers felt they needed, and continuing to be fiscally responsible to the town, but still delivering the best educational program in the state. The new contract, came in at 13.68, the first year being 4.85, second year 4.54, and the third year 4.29. As I said, we'll continue to improve the school's facilities for student safety and learning. We're implementing the school security officer and the director of security. As we open Full Ox Ridge, we'll be looking for an additional custodian up there, and we are doing the expanded space for Fitch. We also continue to invest in technology. Right now, we're more in a replacement cycle for technology, but the board and the administration worked closely to see what technology had to really be replaced and upgraded. We also went for a bring your own device in the high school, which has proved effective over the last year. Dr. Adley, if you want to talk a little bit about specific FTEs.
Good evening, everybody. It's nice to see you this evening, and as the board chair said, it's an exciting time in town, particularly with all the building projects. And again, many thanks to Mr. Rudel, our finance director, and I may say to members of the board who are behind me, and also members of my cabinet for all of their hard work. So these are a couple of the big picture, and you can see that there are 11 special education positions included in the budget, and then also a couple of positions that sustain the enrollment. There's a third grade at Ox Ridge has increased. There's a paraprofessional increase for enrollment at Ox Ridge, an increase in fifth grade, and the DHS science is an additional 2 sections of science at the high school. Essentially, you have to keep those science sections to 24 for the lab purposes. And they are sitting on 23 at this particular point. So there's another there are 2 sections there for science to serve our students. We have 2 positions coming back from the grant. That's a school psychologist and a school SLP, speech language pathologist. They are coming out of the grant that have expired. So once they expire, if there's still a need for them, we have to put them into the regular budget. So you can see that there are 2 positions there for that particular purpose. This 11 special education positions, 2 of those, one is for the DLC program over at Ox Ridge, and then also is for the Excel program, specialized program at the high school. We also have then so a couple of other positions. One is the Ox Ridge custodian. That was identified last year for the increase in the square footage of that particular building. We have a teacher leader position. You may say that is add-in a position. It's actually offsetting a reduction of an administrative position, which is a director of informational technology. You'll see that in the subsequent page. So we've reduced the director of information technology and replaced that with a teaching position, a coaching position at a less expense, and we're going to do that a little bit differently. Fitch Mathematics is an increase in a section of mathematics for the students over at Fitch. When you see the space over there, the size of the classes, there need to be small, intimate class sizes, and so a combination between class size and also the space requires us to have an additional section. The children at the middle school have done 6th grade Mandarin, so we're moving forward into 7th grade Mandarin, and we're pleased to be able to present American Sign Language. That will count as credit towards world language at the high school. That serves on a spectrum of students. A varied spectrum of students who are interested in taking that particular course, who may or may not ordinarily take a regular special education course. The superintendent's budget itself saw a reduction in 1 for enrollment, that was at Tokenique, and also a reduction of 6.8 positions. That was basically 4.5 lunch monitors, 2 teachers in residence. We're very supportive of the teacher in residence program. It has been hard to find highly qualified candidates for this particular year for some reason. So we're going to take a wee bit of a pause on that particular program for now. It didn't make sense to reduce staff who are currently here as opposed to bringing more staff on who are not in the district. So we've reduced that by two positions, and we've also reduced the talented and gifted by 0.2. The board then subsequently reduced even further by 4.4, and that included another section of the talented and gifted, a 0.2 art coordinator, the tech director of information technology that I spoke about. So you'll see these in the subsequent pages, the reductions. So the changes to the superintendent's recommended budget. These are the changes that the board asked, could we bring forward suggestions? So working with administration, also working with the board, these are the additional reductions that we got down to 3.56. We reduced 7 building substitutes, and originally in the budget we suggested adding another day to our substitutes, a third substitute teacher to each building. Subsequently in discussions, we took those off so that each school lost a building substitute. We reduced the high school secretarial staff, that's in the science area. A reduction of 0.2 of the talented and gifted, that's in addition to what the administration reduced, so the board reduced it another section, which essentially removes the program at the high school. That is okay because the board has undergone a review of talented and gifted, and there's a plan moving forward of how to even serve those kids in a different manner. A reduction of 0.6, the administration asked for 0.6, which is 3 sections of PE, where it's actually 6 sections given the quarters, and that was for class size and given the nature of the health discussions that were going on in those classes. Subsequently, that was taken out of the budget. A middle school secretary was eliminated, a reduction. The high school athletic secretary was reduced. Gate receipts, we're going to charge for games under the lights for any programs that are running, sports programs that are running under the night lights. The use of facilities, we increased from $29 to $35 per participant. We have reduced on a sort of administrative position the art coordinator release time. So we reduced that by 0.2 as a saving. The complete revamping of the instructional technology reorganization, so that's a reduction of 1 administrator, but the replacement of 1 coach and teacher in the technology area. I'll call them incidental, Board of Education expenses, and then there was a number of dues, fees, and memberships that were offset. So other reductions included a central office secretary. You can see that there was a number of secretarial positions that were reduced. The board chair just showed you the enrollment. I just point out the enrollment that there's a number of those sections are teetering on tipping at with 1 student, 2 students, or 3 students. We have eliminated all 3 budget control, which means that there is no grace there, so to speak. So as a superintendent, I'll be going back to the right honourable chair here and my board if that sort of tips in the summer. But traditionally, we've worked under a budget control. There now is no budget control. These are additional reductions that we've made. The consultants, we have flat funded the library books for this particular year. We've deferred the K to 5 reading units. That is okay. We can actually manage that because the publication date for those books for Teachers College has been delayed. We are looking at potentially looking at a different system for student management system and coordination with our parents, and that we were looking at PowerSchool. We'll have to do that a different way. This particular funding was going to allow people to participate, for the one of a better term, a PowerSchool university experience, but we'll get the information in a different way. The reduction of robotics. Robotics has been a tremendously successful program. It was $213,000 over 2 years, funded by the Darien Foundation. We're grateful for the gift. But like other programs for fees and travel, the suggestion is to reduce that funding a little bit and look for fundraising for some of those. The board brought the actual advisors into the program and also a lot of equipment into the program and funded that, but it's just sort of offset it a little bit for those other clubs that were also have to fundraise. The addition of 2 drivers and the reduction in out-of-district transportation. So we currently have 4 Suburbans over at the Leroy, and this brings in 6 Suburbans, and it reduces the out-of-district transportation. So this is another savings that we realised. And then we added a paraprofessional at the Oxbridge School, because up to that point we had not, at that point we had a position of the paraprofessional at Oxbridge. That was being offset by the secretarial position, but that was put back in place. And so you can see it comes to 3.56 with those particular reductions. The big picture summary is as you see it. There's pre-purchases. I should note there was a number of over $200,000 worth of pre-purchases. Those were for the most part, small equipment issues, anything from uniforms to welders to just small items, but they all totaled up to over 200,000. So we pre-purchased those this year for next year, and hopefully that it wouldn't impact the budgets going forward. And that is the high level, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. And I think just a high level on the capital improvements. As you know, you've been part of some of these conversations in terms of additional funding and appropriations, but upgrades to the Darien High School in terms of auditorium upgrades and security, Middlesex, a new gym wall padding, masonry repairs and fire alarms, and some district purchases too, in terms of maintenance and a normal kind of truck replacement. So a little over $1 million in terms of capital improvements. As you know, we look to move a lot of, and as many as we could in terms of the capital into the HHR renovations. So we'll continue to look at our capital budget as we go forward. The last page is kind of the budget calendar. We're here this evening, and these are some of the meetings coming up. So again, thank you for your time. Thank you for working for us. Just to comment, I think the board and the administration had a good conversation around budget control. The administration always does a good job throughout the summer of looking at sections. I feel, as does the board, that we have the commitment of working with the Board of Finance if funds are needed as we go forward, and if a section breaks. We also, early in the year, have the full allotment of the budget as we go into the new school year. So from a board perspective, we've committed to Dr. Adley and the administration. We'd be there to support whatever needs there are in terms of a section break and increased enrollment. And that's also thanks to the partnership with the Board of Finance, the RTM subcommittees, and the RTM. I think it's a good way to continue to look at and manage the budget and be efficient in using taxpayer funds as we go forward. So thank you again for the partnership and working with us. We look forward to any questions and continuing to work through the budget process. So thank you.
Well, Duke, I just make a couple comments. I think in terms of listening to the last your sort of month and a half of deliberations, if you will, of the budget, I would say that in my 16 years of sort of being involved, I think it was one of the best, most holistic and kind of efficiency-focused budget discussions that I've heard. And I applaud you and all 9 members of the board and the administration for sort of how you really sort of dug into this and thought about and looked for efficiencies and so forth. And so we'll be doing the same, but I think it's I heard sort of savings and efficiencies, do more with less, kind of evaluating things, and it was just from a finance perspective, I'd compliment you on the process. And I guess the second thing I would say in terms of myself, I think our board keeping a cadence, or really a pulse, I would say, on what's going on with your budget. It's, I think, Rich and your team's reporting that you guys sort of deliver on a monthly basis, I think makes it extremely transparent, allows us to kind of really see what's happening on a monthly basis. So there really aren't any surprises, I would say, kind of when we get to the end of the year. And I think the way you sort of track the surpluses and so forth really help us as we begin to put the 2 budgets together and look at what we're going to fund from surpluses and cash and bonding and ultimately taxes. So I just applaud you and the whole board for the work that you guys have done.
Good. Thank you. Appreciate it. It's a good team effort on behalf of the administration and the board. But
Okay.
Thank you very much.
I just echo what Jim said. There were difficult conversations, difficult decisions, but at all times constructive. And everything was treated with obviously the appropriate level of seriousness and with the objective of efficiency, but maintaining the highest level of standards that our taxpayers have come to enjoy and expect. So thank you.
So I guess, in terms of what comes next, John's going to correct me if I have the wrong date, because I don't have my computer in front of me, but March 7th?
Is today.
That's today.
Sorry, March 14th. March 14th, 1 week from tonight, we'll have our public hearing in the auditorium where this is the chance for any residents that want to come out and speak in favor or anything regarding either one of the budgets. It's for us to sort of listen and sort of get some of their input as we sort of delve into these two different budgets. I guess I would say for our board, I think at our next regularly scheduled meeting, which will be on the 21st, one of the items that'll come on that is our bonding and financing for the purchase of Great Island. The contract was signed, and I should say the diligence period terminated last night, so the closing date's May 5th. Cinco de Mayo, so we can have a closing party. But that means we need to show up with $85 million in funds. So we'll be discussing on the 21st, 2 weeks from tonight, bonding. I prepared something for you that talks about the overall level of interest rates, where we are today versus the various points in the replacement cycle. And I think Jen will be working with our municipal advisor to look at structures and get the latest update for kind of where we expect that to be on an interest rate basis and overall debt service and structure. And then I think if you, looking at the calendar, ultimately we will vote on the budget on April 6th, okay? And, in connection as it relates to specifically to Great Island, it's unlikely that we actually have the financing completed by that date, but I think we'll have a much better view of sort of what that is, and we can talk about how that's going to be implemented and adjusted in the budget and ultimately passed to the RTM, where they may need to make some more adjustments based on where the financing comes out. So the next month we have a lot of work to do. I think thankfully to all the work that the Board of Selectmen and the Board of Ed have done, ton of meetings, all recorded. Thank you very much to Channel 79. I think that we've all watched and rewatched many times, and we'll continue to look through as we evaluate these. So, any questions?
I just, on behalf of the Board of Finance, we want to thank you for the work you did with respect to the contract, and of course, all the town officials and the team led by Monica for getting the contract over the finish line and preparing the deal to get over the finish line.
It was a long path that ended last night, I think 11:55. 11:59, sorry. And but as Monica said, I think thanks to Wayne and our other outside counsel and a lot of the work that the staff has done, and not only over the last couple of months, but really over the last 7 or 8 months, it's been a long road and more work to do going forward. So I think with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Any new business? Any new business?
No new business. What I discussed was upcoming new business, but, okay. Motion to adjourn. Dan moves. Rob seconds. All those in favor? We stand adjourned.